Episode 233 of the TV Dudes podcast, recorded April 22nd, 2019. Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 2. We're back, and we're talking again about Game of Thrones. You know what? We had plans for another main episode later this week, and we kind of decided to scrap it because we're excited. This is the final season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It's Grant.
Randy.
Kyle.
And Kyle, who's taking us in. We're all here in the room, and we wanted to jump in and do an early episode. So this is going to be our main episode for the week. So don't look for an episode on Friday. It's all Game of Thrones talk.
You're getting it early.
That's right. Go back and listen to the other 232 episodes of the TV Dudes.
There you go. But yeah, this episode we're on a second episode. We have thoughts, and we got to get them out there. We know there's a lot of other competition, but it doesn't matter. This is just pure fan enthusiasm.
If you're listening, we're your guys. You want to hear what we got to say.
It's true.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, this is season 8, episode 2 of. Yeah, I think we have 4 more episodes after this. That's it.
Yeah.
This episode is called Jenny's Song.
Yeah.
And I guess we can get into it. Is there anything else we need to cover real quick?
No, we're just going to right into hot takes.
Oh, it's time for some hot takes. All right, let's. Who wants to start? Randy.
Okay, so I was watching this episode and thinking, this is a lot like last week's episode. It's like it's all piece moving. It's all the characters coming together. But I think it worked better. I think there was more emotional beats. Also, as I was watching it, somewhere in my notes here, and this is for people who listen to your Star Trek podcast will get this. Somewhere in my notes, I'm like, man, waiting for the White Walkers is like waiting for Spock.
Right.
I was like, about somewhere in the episode, I'm like, oh, right about when Arya and the Hound are on the wall talking. I'm like, oh, we're not seeing any White Walkers. This is the episode, isn't it? We're not. They're going to end on the it's about to go down.
Vaporware.
Yeah.
It's
But
not happening.
I was pretty okay with it. I thought so many of these scenes were so good. There was a lot of really good payoffs and stuff. There's a lot of cool characters, a lot of cool little bits. Like, I loved this episode.
Kyle.
Yeah, hot take. No, agreed. This at the end of last week's episode, we got that great moment with Ser Jorah, Daenerys, and John Bradley. What's the character? Samwell. That was kind of like the emotional high for me of that
impressed
episode.
You just know John Bradley by John Bradley.
I know, right?
Well, it's because in all these behind-the-scenes clips, everybody's like, it was so fun working with John Bradley. It was so fun, da-da-da-da-da.
Does everyone call him by his full name?
Yeah,
the
they call each other by their full names, I think.
That's so weird.
Yeah. But anyway,
It's marketing.
It's like everybody calls Jon Snow. Nobody just calls him John.
I think it's really weird, Randy Lander, that they do that.
I don't think it's so odd, Grant Davis.
Grant Davis. So Cal's got here. No, yeah, I feel like we were on an emotional high at the end of that episode, and then it just kind of picked up on that same note. With a few exceptions, I feel like, yeah, it kind of carried that throughout the whole episode, right into what is, I imagine, going to be just one of the greatest setups of badass battlery of all time.
Yeah, I found that in talking to other people, they've come down on two sides about this episode. And that is, there's people who really appreciate the dialogue in Game of Thrones, and this one is just rich in it.
Oh, yeah.
It's all these character reactions. It's all this build-up. It's a lot of fan
service.
Fan services.
I saw that name thrown around quite a bit. Yeah,
because I
may
mean,
take umbrage.
it is a great coming together of all these main characters and all these interactions that we've been waiting to see.
Yeah.
Some of this fan fiction speculation, and we're going to get to the Arya scene.
a lot of shipping.
Yeah, and so certain elements of that, yeah. And then on the flip side, I think that it's just another episode of them seeming to spinning their wheels and delaying the inevitable, delaying what they know a lot of Game of Thrones fans are in the tank for. We want the big action. I have gum. That's very unprofessional. Almost swallowed that. They want the big action sequences. That's what we're all jonesing for. We're all bloodthirsty for it. And then they just once again dangle it. And I even stopped halfway through this episode going,
See what the
how much
time
time
was?
do we have?
Yep.
Is it time for a battle?
You can't do that. That's like seeing how many pages you have left in a book.
We stopped, and I was like, there's totally time for a battle. And then it just kept going.
Yeah.
And then Tyrion just kept getting drunker, and I'm like, I'm kind of okay with this, but I also thought I was getting a battle.
No, I mean the thing is, like, you can't come back and start with the big battle. Then you've got to do six. Then you get like 5 episodes of climax. If you hit the climax too early, then everything is gonna be boring afterwards.
Oh,
so I
but-
think
but this
I think
is
the
a-
build up is really important.
This is battle number 1. There's going to be multiple battles.
You don't think next week's gonna
there-
be like the biggest battle?
No. Well, I think there's going to be that, and then I here's my prediction. I think
we got
the very
we going
end of
into
it-
theories already because I'm like
I think the very
ooh,
last
this
scene is going to be it's starting to snow in King's Landing,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh shit, they're not immune. There's going to be a second fallback, and then there's going to be the great comeuppance with the survivors of Winterfell and King's Landing, and the tension there.
You think there's gonna be survivors? I'm thinking they might kill everybody.
Oh.
I literally think they might kill everyone.
I know one person's going to survive,
Yeah?
and that is the Hound, because he's
Oh.
got to go fight his brother.
That's true.
Story wise,
Clegane Bowl.
they can't kill him.
What about White Walker Hound versus Zombie the Mountain?
Okay.
I'm not 100%
Oh, that
serious
would
about
be
this.
wild.
I'm partly it's just building in what Game of Thrones does, but as I watched this episode, it was a series of I just bought a boat called Live Forevers. That's what every episode, like everything was like. Grey Worm and Missandei making plans.
Oh, jeez.
I was like, I wrote in my notes, I'm like, oh, Grey Worm's dead.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, once you make that professional love, I was like, Theon, goner.
Yeah.
Theon, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, you have now achieved this redemption arc for your character,
Yeah.
and this is going to be the most poetic point for you to die.
Actually, so I'm playing by a different set of rules. I'm going horror movie rules. I'm thinking anybody who has sex, they're dead. All right.
well, that's
so
everyone
Theon,
in Game of Thrones now.
well, exactly. But Theon's immune. Theon can't have sex.
But he has in the past. How,
That-
what's
but I
what's
mean,
the
like-
statute of limitations?
Oh, that's true. I think it has to be post Battle of the Bastards.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, all right.
Yeah. So we're talking about intercourse in like the afterglow of recent success.
If Brienne dies, we riot.
Brienne's going to die, dude. You
She's-
should brace for yourself for it now.
If her and Jamie hook up, she's going to die. But it looks like she might live.
I think Brienne's going to die, guys.
All right, well, I definitely think we should get into our predictions about who's going to die at the end of this.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, I
But-
also got I heard a twist theory. I'm going to see what you guys think of it.
Okay, but let's go ahead and break this down linearly because
Yeah.
I see that Kyle actually wrote out how the structure of the episode went. I think this will be fun to go through, and I do want to give a little heads up to the audience. It is us 3 in the recording studio. There is a 4th person. That would be my daughter, and there's a good chance she'll chime in and make noise during this episode. And I have no intention of editing this episode, so I just want to preface that is a very good possibility of
Well,
occurring.
she probably has thouts on Game of Thrones because she's watched every episode with you.
She's so bloodthirsty. The most bloodthirsty 3-year-old, and it's kind of fucked up. She has headphones on, though, so she can't hear me. All right. Let's kick things off.
All right. So this episode starts off with the trial of Jaime Lannister.
Right.
Yeah, where it's like Daenerys gets to roast him. Get it? You know, like dragons and stuff.
I feel like Daenerys she'd already decided. She's like, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker.
Well, I feel like there was a little more bluster. I think that she
think?
was putting a little bit of pomp and circumstance, being like, my brother. And like she was trying to act like her brother was actually like a great role model.
Yeah.
He was a fucking
Oh, yeah, he
asshole to
was a
her,
terrible
and she
person,
knows
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And
But she didn't say that to him.
Him
like,
getting gold dumped on his head is like the best thing that ever happened to her.
That's true.
So,
But to Jamie, it's all about that's my family name. Like I can dump gold on his head and kill him, but you can't. You know.
yeah, I get that, but at the same time, I was like, I think she also has to recognize what a poisonous figure her father was. He was a mad guy who
Yeah.
went bonkers. And after being his servant, this guy stabbed him in the back, and it must have been for. I think that they've built up that she can be rational, but she can also be insanely harsh up front to
Yeah.
kind of gauge a person.
Yeah.
So I thought that her having that degree of flexibility once Sansa chimes in
Yeah.
was to be expected. I think she would totally roll with what Sansa said.
I think because of the scene with Samuel last week, I mean, maybe had that not happened, she might have just, gone trigger happy on him. But because she got to see firsthand, like, oh, even though he didn't have a great, relationship with his father, this has affected him. Like, I can't just go around frying folks.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
That's a good call.
I like that Jaime Lannister has. I mean, I kind of like we've seen him sort of get his redemption arc, and we're all as viewers kind of on his side a little bit. And I think it was interesting to see these people who he's wronged in the past. Like, I mean, Bran for one thing. Like, Bran is pretty unforgivable, and the only reason Bran doesn't care is because Bran's not Bran anymore.
Bran's a creepy little ghost kid.
Yeah.
He is stoned.
Yeah,
I love that he keeps Jaime keeps looking at him like, "Are you about to rat me out too?
Do anything? What you gonna do, bro?
You gonna be cool, man? You gonna be cool?
But I mean, Sansa, her father was executed in large part because Jaime brought him in.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, Jaime's the guy
when
who
you
brought
watch
in her
that
father.
episode, he stabs him in the calf.
Yeah, like
he ends the fight.
And Jaime did some bad things to the Starks, and whether or not
but he's unapologetic. He says, look, we were in a war between families at that point, and I'm not going to apologize. That's like we do what we do.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
But you know what was
they
great
all understood it in a
about
way.
that is I forgot why I didn't still hate Jaime for all that stuff. Until Bren of Tarth
brought it all up?
Yeah, until she had that moment. And then it's like, when he lost his hand, the character changed fundamentally.
That's true.
Yeah.
I actually loved Brienne standing basically literally in front of him, between him and his adversaries, and said, look, I vouch for this guy.
It's funny because I thought there was a good chance we were going to get that other person from Winterfell. Remember the son that he let go?
Yeah.
From, was it the Twin Towers or from... I was about to say Heimdall, but that's only because I don't remember the other castle's name.
Yeah. Like the burnt up castle.
Yeah, he says, I'm going to release you to go up to Winterfell as well and go return to your family. And that guy was like a high knight.
That's true.
I figured we were going to see him step up and also vouch for him, which was going to be like, okay, now you had Tyrion, then you have Brienne, then you have this third guy. So it's like a little bit of like the Winterfell family is also vouching, which I thought would be pretty needed because it's one thing for Brienne to be another outsider vouching for him and Tyrion another outsider,
but a Norther.
But having a Norther person that would be such validation for Jaime being accepted back into this family, and I wish it was there.
You know what? I do too. But the thing, I'd forgotten all about that.
Right.
So they would have had to have spoiled it in the coming soon to have any resonance. I think
that would have been fine.
Yeah, but I would have liked that because you're right. That's a good point. That would have made a really big difference. I'd totally forgotten that part.
But like you guys mentioned before, Bran was totally sitting there, and he says, "The things we do for family," all creepy like.
And he repeated his line back to him: "The things we do for love."
For love, and it was like, oh, that's the thing he said right as he pushed you out the window, Bran.
Yeah.
So a part of you, little freaky kid, does remember that.
Yeah.
So okay, we get a little bit more reveal. I know I'm jumping ahead here, but I did want to address Bran again for a second here, because we do get the reveal that Bran he no longer considers himself Bran. That's not a big reveal.
Right.
We knew something weird's going on, but no one seems to want to ever ask him until Tyrion finally does.
Right.
Thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
But he also says sort of like, I am the what do you call it? The historian. I am a living embodiment of all the history of mankind.
Yeah.
I am an understanding of all past events.
Yeah.
And he can run through his Rolodex to see if anyone's ever tried to use wildfire on the king, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't think that anyone's tried. That's interesting. So
That was a cool moment, yeah.
It does seem like he's supposed to be... The Three-Eyed Raven is basically a living document of all of the history of civilization, of living beings.
Well, and that he's so important that the Night King needs... If he wipes him out, the Night King wipes out man. It's like a pillar of the world of man. I think that's really interesting. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of mythological Lord of the Rings kind of shit that there's not a ton of in Game of Thrones because it's pretty grounded.
Yeah, but they haven't been addressing they've been dancing around that too. And I'm like, at least kind of explain a little bit of what Bran is supposed to be, because I don't need this to be John from Cincinnati element of this. Like, what is that?
Yeah. Well, they also pointed out, I think this might have been the first time, but that it wasn't just the Three-Eyed Raven before him, that this is normal. Like there's been a succession, and he's just one of several.
Yeah.
So Tyrion vouches for him, and then Jaime drops the bomb of like, oh yeah, Cersei ain't coming. Who would have believed that dumb shit? and Tyrion goes, "Ooh, uh-oh."
See, this goes to one of the few gripes I had about the episode, and it goes back to something you said last week, Grant, which is that Tyrion's not that dumb. Like, there's no way he should have believed Cersei. I understand she's his sister, but she's his sister. He should have known she was lying.
They made him dumb just because they wanted to have this redemption arc again for him, but they already did this. Like, they already had him learn from his mistakes. So for them to, like, beat it, and this whole, like, the whole first half of this episode is like vouch fest.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, I vouch for this person. I vouch for that person.
Yeah.
And then you have, what's his name? Like, oh, Theon, I vouch for him. And, Jorah, like, I vouch for Tyrion. And
That's
I'm like,
also,
come on,
I mean,
guys.
the way that works is there's a reason for that. And the reason is that it's also reintroduction fest, as Kyle's outline says, Jamie reunion tour. Because my notes are all like, this guy comes here. Oh, and now this guy joins us. And then this guy joins us. And it is like everybody coming together. And all these people have wronged each other in some way. So there's got to be vouching going on, or they'd all just murder each other.
Well, interesting about the whole, like, people who have wronged in the past is the trial of Jaime Lannister kind of completes, like, all three of them, Tyrion, Jaime, and Cersei, have all, like, had to account for what they've done on the show. Mm-hmm. So Tyrion, it was when, the trial he was sentenced, ended up killing his dad.
Yeah.
And then with Cersei, it was the walk of shame. Yeah.
It's like Chaucer in a way. The trial of
But it's like they all had to atone for, like, for everything that they did on this show.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Jaime seemed to get away with it the most. No walk of shame for him. He lost a hand, but he lost that a long time ago. There seems to be no punishment here in front of some of the people he wronged the most.
Well, I mean, maybe he'll get punished next week when he's murdered by the White Walkers.
Yeah.
And dies in the arms of a woman he loves, Brianna Tarth.
There you go. So it's going to complete the...
Yeah.
This episode, something that they went by real quick to kind of explain why Tyrion was duped by his sister so easy is that she manipulated him in a way where she hid a lie with a truth, which was he believed her because he found out about the baby.
Yeah.
And I guess he believed it was going to be Jaime's, but I think that's when he kind of flipped the logic switch. And then Jaime even says, well, that's her best move, is hiding a lie with the truth, when he asked him about the baby.
I don't remember who exactly it was, but someone was talking to Daenerys and basically had to also point out to her that when it comes to family, it's harder to be able to, have a bullshit meter because things are just so much more complex in those relationships.
Yeah.
Then, Tyrion can be super clever, but that's him talking to his sister, and he's going to have a blind spot that he has to always try and overcome. And I thought that was a very like modern sensibility, kind of like forgiving statement, like to kind of recognize that is in all of us. I don't know. I appreciated that aspect right there.
Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, so Jaime reunion tour. So it's like this person gets, and my notes were looking like that. It's like this happens, and then this person enters, and then this person enters.
Well, I think out of everybody, the most impactful reunion was with Brienne of Tarth. First in the when she has the great line about why aren't you insulting me right now? Like this is I can't
weird.
do this. Yeah. And then later in the episode, when they had like one of my favorite moments, that little ceremony, which we'll get to in a second, but yeah, I think there was so much kind of writing on that, and you realize there's so much about his character transformation. Because often you read people talk about it, and they talk about those two characters, and I'm like, it's been seasons since we've seen them together.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, they did have this really serious connection when you go back and look at it. And I think for all the beats in this episode, it was just this collection of moments, and they had a lot of really good moments.
Yeah, I agree. What did you guys think of Jaime and Bran together at the Weirwood?
Bran or Brienne?
Bran.
I thought it was a little bit more illuminating about what's going on with Bran, kind of like what we were just touching on a little bit ago.
I liked the trepidation that Jaime, I think it shows a lot about Jaime Lannister, that he used to be a cocky, didn't care anything. The trepidation he shows when he goes approaches this kid that he knows could just burn him, just like ruin his whole life. And
he makes a point to apologize.
Yeah, he's not going there. He's not going there to get to see if the kid's going to rat him out. He's going there to legitimately apologize.
That was good.
Yeah.
Well, and what I find interesting is what wasn't said in the scene, which is whether he realizes the power of the three-eyed raven or not, like in that moment, like you see Bran's acceptance of him, and it's like, oh yeah, he's not a terrible character. Yeah. Like if he had been doing all this other awful stuff that we didn't know about besides what we had seen, Bran, who he would have sniffed that out and it would have been a different scene.
Is Bran unfairly omnipotent for the narrative? Do you guys think? Does he know the fate of everyone? He seems to kind of imply he does.
I don't think he does. I think that's just that Yoda type thing where you just act like you know everything.
Because he's like, now is the time for you, Samwell, to go talk to Jon Snow about his parentage.
Yeah.
And when he looks at Jaime, he's like, no, because you need to live to fight in this battle. Because that's crucial. And it's like, is he he seems to be a little bit knowing of the future to some extent.
I didn't read that as him knowing, actually.
But he's also a little bit autistic.
I read into that too, but here's where I don't think, I mean, he's OP if you really consider everything he can do. But when I read into that, I was thinking, yeah, he does know at least bits about the future. Like he can look up one person, maybe not the whole narrative.
Yeah.
But he doesn't care about the outcome. Like, if the outcome is him dying, like, he's already accepted that.
Is this all like the Wheel of Time, you think, to him? Is he sort of like displaced from time and he's just kind of like...
No, that's a different series.
I know, but this idea of like the cycle of how this kind of goes, and he's in this body, but he's almost warged into this body as a dispassionate viewer. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I think to some extent, I think that's true. Although I want him to warg into a dragon. We talked about it last week. I want that to happen. I don't think it's going to happen.
Is he the same kid who wargs now?
I don't think he is. But does he still have Bran's powers? We don't know. And they may be carefully holding that close there. Because if they're about to lose and then suddenly the ice dragon changes sides, that'd be a huge surprise moment. And if you didn't know he could warg, that's a big surprise.
You remember the behind the scenes theories about the wall having also this magical barrier?
Yeah.
And like once Bran was branded with the icy touch of the Night King on his arm, him passing the barrier unlocked it because a piece of the Night King was able to go with him past the barrier.
Yeah.
And that's why the ice dragon was able to burn it down, and they're all able to finally come down there because of him. Like,
they'll never make that explicit, though. We might find out if they ever finish the books.
Yeah, I think that would be a little bit more of what George R. R. Martin was intending, but it's too much to have to explain to us, the audience. Yeah. It's just kind of a neat little aside for the mythology.
It will remain a fan theory.
Yeah.
But it's a cool fan theory, and I like it.
Okay, so what about meeting up with Brienne?
That was great. That was what Kyle was talking about. Like her, like, why are you not insulting me? What happened? What's going on? We know what's going on.
I thought it felt a little bit like peculiarly forced. Like she had her hackles back up after vouching for him. Like, I don't know. I was like, why are you kind of freaking out about this again? Except for that it does have such a great payoff later when they're all drinking and she gets knighted.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, I guess in that case it's fine. But at first I was like, what is this like reverting back to? It's like a change in tone.
Yeah. I think they had that scene in there to sell this idea that Jaime was a different person the last time they were together.
Yeah.
And that experience for him really was transformational and probably the only reason he's alive right now.
By the way, you guys skipped past Jaime and Tyrion having a reunion.
Oh, yeah.
And I want to talk about one thing. I wrote a couple lines down as I was going through, and the one I loved was Tyrion musing about Cersei. And saying that, well, at least she doesn't get to kill me. He's like, I guess I'll deny her that pleasure while I'm being ripped apart by dead men. Yeah. Maybe I'll go rip her apart after I'm dead. Like, I loved that.
And then he's like, oh, I'm just talking to myself right now. You totally just like walked away from this conversation.
And also one thing about Brienne that I really noticed and I think was really good was she's watching, when she and Jaime are talking, she's watching Podrick as he's like teaching other people to fight. And she's like, yeah, I did that. And I thought that was I love the relationship between those two characters.
Is Podrick like the most like across the board gifted person in this show?
Yeah, I think he was. I think he's this guy who would have been nothing.
Great sword fighter, incredible singer, great lover, apparently.
Well, actually, if I can fast forward a little bit, something I didn't realize until I read analysts afterwards is they never made it explicit that the reason he was so good with the ladies was that, he was good in bed or this or that. Yeah. They just said he had a special talent. And I think this might have been the payoff of that the reason they all fell in love with him is because he was singing to them, not because he was like,
I think he was great in bed, too.
He woos women. He was one of his songs.
I think he's just got the trifecta. I think he's got the touch. He's got the power.
He's a Bradley Cooper.
Is Podrick going to live?
man,
Has he
I
had
don't know.
sex yet?
Let's hold on to this.
All right, okay,
I think
all
we
right.
should actually we'll go down the
We'll go
list and
Deadpool,
we'll say
okay.
who's dead, who's
All right,
alive.
fair enough.
Okay.
All right, Danny and Sansa.
Yeah, that was kind of a big moment in this episode because we've had a lot of tension
Looks.
between them.
A lot of looks.
A lot of looks.
A lot
you
of
know?
24 style looking back and forth at each other.
And they had to sit at the great table, a couple times in the first episode and this one and actually, have discussions and decide things together. But they haven't really had a one-on-one that we've gotten to see up
Yeah.
until now.
I really like this, and what I really liked about it is that despite the fact that they have sort of a calm conversation between the two, they lay each out, sort of why they don't trust each other, what's causing problems. They come to sort of an agreement, but they still don't like each other. Like
Yeah.
you can tell, Sansa is not happy about this, and she's like, "What about the North? Like you don't come in here and get to rule this place."
I don't get the sense that Daenerys feels like spite
No,
toward
I think
her.
she- I think she's threatened
just,
by her.
Yeah, she's threatened. Like she's being put in check. She's used to being put in check by powerful men.
Yeah.
and pushing against that. But here's a powerful woman that I think, to a certain extent, she game respects game. She's like, man, I know what you had to go through in
Yeah.
order to have this kind of power because I've had to fight that same kind of fight.
Yeah.
And so she's a little bit reticent to push back against her.
Yeah.
But Sansa has a little bit of a higher ground as far as a self-righteous appeal of like, you're just going to use us and then you're going to subjugate us later.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not down for that.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to bend the knee to you. In fact, my brother is a bit pussy whipped.
Yeah.
I mean, to an
Yeah.
extent that
Yeah.
he went down there and he bent the knee, and I'm not so sure I'm down for
Well,
that.
it's
Yeah.
like, hey, that's great. We both love John. Like, that's our point of connection.
Yeah.
But John being in love with you makes me trust you less because
Yeah.
he's going to be dumb.
Yeah. Also, by the way,
Oh,
Sansa
he's
has
so dumb, man.
he's so
I can't
dumb.
wait till we talk about that end scene. But
Sansa, by the way, I love her outfit.
oh
I
man,
love her new outfit.
Oh,
and
yeah,
she
that was-
towers above her.
Yeah.
She's like she towers above her. She towers
Yeah.
above John. So she is so tall and
Yeah.
just domineering. I'm like, okay,
Sansa's
Yeah.
had a huge transformation from her early character.
that actress.
Yeah.
I like her. I think that Dark Phoenix movie is going to be garbage.
I do too.
And I don't think that's her to blame
No,
necessarily.
it's not. She should have been great, but
But
we'll see.
That
We'll see.
movie, just everything about it is just,
It's not looking good.
all of the X-Men movies except
All right.
for Logan. Anyway, that's an aside.
yeah.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a Khal Drogo reference in there too.
Loved that. Yeah. He was a bit
one other
taller.
man, and I trusted. Yeah,
Oh, sorry. I killed it. I took your line.
no, that's fine. And then there was the reunion between Theon and Sansa as well, which
Yeah, this is the point at which I was like, "Wow, Winterfell is full of awkward meetings." Like this is what the whole episode's going to be, isn't it?
I think that there was a time jump that must have happened here.
Yeah, that makes
because
sense.
I don't think that Jamie showing up, Theon showing up, and then the guys from the North Wall
It was
all
just-
showing up were supposed to be the same time.
It was just a really big day.
Yeah.
Oh man, just everyone the trains are just rolling on
Yeah,
time. And
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the assumption is they've been there in camp, they've been training,
Yeah.
they now have set up all this stuff, and I think you can kind of mark that a little bit by how much has been accomplished by the blacksmiths and by all the dragon glass up on
yeah.
the wall.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
The
Yeah.
different tools and stuff they set up, like Grey Worm and the bridge drawbridge that cracks open.
Yeah.
cool little shots like that. I'm like, okay, they've made a lot of progress.
Yeah, you're right. But we needed a giant MCU 3 days later.
Yeah, that would have been very helpful because there's parts of this that go, all right, they're not all here at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Still, what'd you guys think of him showing up?
I liked it. I was wondering because I was trying to go back. I'm like, wait a minute, where did Theon leave things? I remember last time he didn't leave Winterfell under the best of circumstances,
But he saved her.
but he and Sansa did. And so when she just goes up and embraces him, I'm like, oh, okay, so this is all going to be cool.
Yeah, no, I really, until seeing them now, I kind of forgot, they both have this really strong connection because they both survived this just horrendous abuse from
At the
Bolton.
hands of the Boltons, and that was the thing.
Yeah.
They were it was like two abusers who were sort of reconnecting over the shared abuse that they'd had, and they both survived it. And I that moment, I was like, oh yeah, they're both sort of remembering that they both survived the same thing.
Yeah, and I also think they implied that Ramsay did some mutilation to Sansa as well. Obviously didn't snip anything off, but had used sharp items and just hurt her
Oh,
in ways.
that seems about right.
Yeah. So they kind of have that connection as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very touching moment, and I thought it was nicely compared with Daenerys because they were trying to find common ground, and in a way, Theon is that common ground for both of them because, to an extent, there's a degree of trust that Daenerys has in Theon already because of his sister.
Yeah.
And now I forget her name.
Yara.
Yara, because she has that
They
other.
changed it in the book.
Yeah, yeah. because of her kind of being a right-hand woman who pledges a bunch of ships she lost right away to Daenerys.
I love the idea that she's going to the Iron Islands. There may be more than one fallback. Like if they go to the Iron Islands first,
right?
We'll see.
Man, do you think they're building up that they also want to have a giant war, like a water battle?
That'd be amazing.
Holy, yeah.
I mean, we
kind of got Battle of Blackwater Bay, which I mean, for this type of show, I mean, I guess you could add dragons to it.
Yeah.
I mean, we also kind of got like the Sea Voyage with the dragons, though. So I don't know. It seems like something they may have already done.
I think
but
the Night,
pretty
like,
cool.
what if the Night King just kind of takes over this whole swath of land, and then like the Iron Islands and everyone else over there is just like, yeah, we can't actually go over to that
last
island
bastion,
because that place is that's controlled by these creepy ice dudes. they're just murder skeletons.
It's just Yara getting an owl and like having the realization, wait, so if I just stay here, I rule Westeros? Like, I'm the new queen?
She builds a new Iron Throne.
Isn't that the movie like Dawn of the Dead? Don't they all like just all the zombies win, and then like even the islands are starting to slowly get taken over?
Yeah. Before we get to Jon Snow, there was one little bit. There was the little girl who wants to fight in the food line.
Oh yeah, and that dude who was a dead man walking.
That
like,
guy.
I never have fought in my life. I don't have skills.
And the other night's like, dude, we need more bodies in the front line. I mean, go get a sword.
Yeah, you're gonna be fine.
You'll be fine.
I survived some shit by laying low.
But I love that little girl. She's like, I want to fight. And I thought Gilly's kind of stepping in and being like, good, you can come protect me. Like that was really cool.
I thought the fact that she was wearing a little nameplate that said Shireen on it, I was a little bit too heavy-handed. And her having the burns on her face, like the grayscale, I was like, I get it. She's supposed to really remind him of her and break his heart a little.
Yeah.
That was a pretty heartbreaking moment.
It was sad.
Yeah.
But
I was just thinking like, oh, they all got to eat soup in the cold. Like, what's sadder than eating soup in the cold wearing nothing but gray?
And it's a hot bowl of brown and gray.
Yeah.
My buddy, right after we watched this episode, he goes, all right, guys, here's the question. Who's going to be the very first person to die in the episode? And who would be the very absolute worst person to die in the episode? There's only one right answer. We're all like trying to think of like naming certain people. He goes, the answer? It's Sam's baby down in the dungeon. Sam's baby's just going to die all of a sudden the very first scene. I'm like, that would be terrible. What are you doing?
It did occur to me if there's something like where they discover that there's a hole that leads into the crypts.
Yeah.
And if the walkers get in there and basically kill everyone in the crypts who's supposed to be safe.
They've really hyped up the crypts as being so safe. That
I'm like, if they start this show or if they show a scene with them in the crypts, I'm like, oh, you're all gonna die.
Yeah, that could be fascinating.
Yeah, we'll see.
There's some other route that the Night King is aware of.
Right, exactly.
Because who is are we kind of curious about who the Night King is?
Not really. I mean, he's this ancient guy. I'm sure there's a prequel series to be made about him. There'll be 6 seasons, and HBO should probably greenlighting that pretty soon.
Better Call Night King.
Better Call Night King.
I kind of feel bad for the Night King because it's like, hey, we're going to cast you as this like main villain of the show, but you're going to be in full prosthetic most of the time. But for this one scene, we just need you to have 6-pack abs. It's going to be on the show for like 2 seconds, but we hit the gym, buddy. We just you get through that. It's nothing but blue makeup and full armor. Just we need this shot.
Doug Jones is like, yeah, tell me about it. That's my entire career. Okay, so Jon Snow is reunited with his Night Watchman.
Yep.
And Tormund. So sad Dolores Ed. And
putting kind of a hard punch on the timeline too. Like you were talking about how they couldn't have all arrived. Like this is the meetup where it's like, oh no, this is when the night starts.
Yeah, I like it because they're like, tomorrow, tonight they're going to be here, and it's like, oh shit!
And that was the point where you and I we're both like, wait a minute, are they going to do the battle this episode?
Right.
Like, it's coming soon.
That happens at the halfway point.
At
So we're
the
like,
half point.
How much time we got?
Yeah, and I thought that might be subverting expectations, but no. I love Tormund bear hugging Jon, like coming at him out of nowhere, and I love that his first. There were several lines in the show that made me crack up. But the big woman's still here. Still on it, Tormund.
The big woman's still here when he goes goes and starts talking about why he has that name.
Oh my God.
And then chugs milk, and everyone's just like silently watching, like the.
It was one of the best scenes of the whole show. Yeah.
And like he keeps on hitting on her. I'm like, come on, Brienne, just go for him.
Do you feel like maybe he's told that story like to everyone? He's the guy who's like, you know why they called me Giant Spain? My mother was I killed a giant, and then I went and I was, sir, this is a Wendy's.
I just like, and then I acted like a baby for 3 months, sucking it on her teeth. I'm like, what?
Okay.
That's why I'm so big. Giant's milk.
I don't care if that's true or not. I don't care if he just messes with people and he carries a flask of milk around just to mess with people.
Oh man, it's so good.
I know this is so perverted, but when he started that story, I was like, and then you hooked up with his wife?
The giant wife.
Totally thought that's what it was.
Yeah, that's what I thought
how
it was
does
going
that
too.
work?
Yeah.
As a 10-year-old? Thought I was a baby. Okay, so then we have the battle room scene, which I think it has a lot of problems.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is where my first gripe came into.
This is one of those, we have certain mechanics we want to go through that are going to be convenient for us to explain why we subvert those mechanics in a later battle scene. Our buddy Martin always loves to say, if they tell you the plan, that's because the plan's going to fail.
Yeah.
If they don't tell you the plan, that's because we're going to see how it's executed.
That makes sense.
And so here they're telling us the plan because obviously things aren't going to work out like they say. They're going to come through the crypts and they're going to kill Gilly's baby. Or whatever.
That really would be the worst way to start that episode.
Oh man,
We're laughing so much.
And that little girl who we saw is going to die right with him.
Oh, yeah.
It's awful.
Don't worry, Shireen Surrogate.
No, that's who's going to kill him. Like, she's going to be already killed, turned into a white, and then
she'll
she's
kill
going to...
him,
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
That's ruthless. That's terrible.
But they're all just kind of like laying out a plan, and it seems weird that they decided to do this. All right, we've talked for 2.5 minutes. Break. Let's all leave the room. It's like, no, guys. Just because we're the audience watching you guys doesn't mean we need you all to exit. I know they wanted to get to that so that they could have like Tyrion talk to Bran and get his story.
Yeah.
And you kind of see the tension between Jon Snow and Daenerys that he's not going with her.
Yeah.
He's going a separate way because he's like, I've been fucking my aunt. This is weird. So, okay.
You know he's going, is she going to be cool with it? I mean, I'm cool with it. Is she going to be cool with it, though?
She's not. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
But not for the relative aspect.
Yeah.
What'd you guys think of the battle scene? Or battle planning scene, rather.
So my big gripe here is Jaime should not have been in this planning meeting. Like, I feel like...
Hell no, he shouldn't have.
By having Jaime... I mean, everywhere else... I mean, him roaming the castle, like, I totally buy that. But after the trial of Jaime Lannister at the beginning of the episode, and then to have him, like, you know, part
Get
of
to be in
the
the
Ocean's 11 crew, like...
But remember, there's been time passed, as Grant noted.
Yeah,
and also
true.
remember that Jaime, while he's not as good as a hand-to-hand fighter as he used to be one of the best fighters in the kingdom.
And a tactician, yeah.
So you bring him
Okay.
in for his tactical knowledge. That makes sense to me.
But I
You either trust him or
understand
you
the gripe.
don't. Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
could have thrown in a line of like, why is he in here?
Yeah.
And Daenerys vouching for him could have been interesting.
Yeah, I agree. You're right. It would have been nice to have the line, but I can no prize that one. I'm like, this guy was one of the master tacticians. Of course, they'd bring him in. At this point, you either trust him or you don't.
Yeah.
Bran, it was a great kind of reveal about the idea of who Bran is, that he's this historian guy, and that he's volunteering himself to be bait, or not volunteering so much as saying, this is how this is what I'm going to do. And everyone's like, man, freaky ass kid. Okay, whatever you say, because I don't know what's going on with you, but it's low risk for us to just kind of have you chill in the weirwood anyway. Yeah. Sure.
Look, we low-key just don't want you staring at us anymore. Just go somewhere else and stare at a tree.
You can go hang out by the tree? Sure.
Can you just throw those Ray-Bans back on? Thanks.
But we can't leave you out there alone. I'll do it. I'll protect him, says Theon. And Bran's like, oh, thanks. Really? Does anyone else want to volunteer as well? Really?
You're like, you did a bang-up job last time. Theon.
I'll let you know when 2 boys from the village are after me.
We get burn me on the tree or something. Yeah, and everyone else is like, yeah, Theon, you can deal with creepy ass kid. You deal with it.
Do you think it's possible that whole thing was like, okay, now that Theon and the Three-Eyed Raven are gone, what's the real plan?
They all exit the room. They wait a few minutes and like
Come back.
all right, shit, they're gone.
Okay, that was crazy shit, right? Now, what's the actual plan?
And then somebody goes, why is Jaime still here? Real plan time.
Yeah.
But
So what's next?
Yeah, what is next on here? We got.
By the way, we did. There was a line in here that I love, which is Tormund's. Oh no, I think this might have been later. The Tormund line. We're all going to die, but at least we'll die together.
So there's Ser Jorah.
Yeah,
Yes.
they gave this like 2 seconds, which, I mean, how much more are you going to give it? But meeting the little bear for the moment.
Yeah.
And then they kind of got to shake. They were arguing over her going to the crypt, and obviously she's not.
She's not gonna do that,
No,
no.
badass, yeah. But then he got, which I thought was a great moment, is Samwell gave him his family's,
Heartsbane.
Yeah.
his family's sword.
Yeah.
And
It's a fucking massive sword. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's like the height of you. How do you? I get like Sam saying he can't swing it, but I'm like, how is Jorah gonna swing that?
Jorah's
either?
tall. He's tall.
Is he that tall?
Yeah, but that pays off a thing that we haven't seen in a long time, which is that Jorah's father was like Samwell's surrogate dad, and Samwell's real dad was a piece of shit. So it makes a lot of sense.
It's also kind of touching because if you remember, Jorah Mormont, his dad, had a Valyrian steel sword that was supposed to go to Jorah, but since his son was a traitor and off in the Iron Islands, he gave that sword to Jon Snow.
Yeah.
So for this to kind of come circle, and he inherits in a way his own Valyrian steel sword from Jon Snow's best friend.
Yeah,
That's-
it's a
and-
lot of nice payoff.
They also paid some lip service to that last season when Jorah meets Jon Snow. They have a moment where he's holding the sword, and Jon Snow's like, "Yeah, he put the wolf head on there," and he's kind of like, "Oh yeah, I remember this."
I totally would have assumed that Jorah was a dead man, especially given his talk earlier where he basically abdicates any possibility of him returning to being the hand of the queen for Daenerys. And he says, like, no, Tyrion is clearly your man. I fucking hate the guy, but he's brilliant.
Yeah.
And
Except
I
for this last few days.
I gotta respect, like, he is the guy who should totally be your hand. I was like, well, like, now you can die.
Yeah.
But him getting that sword, in a way, is like it seems a little bit like a shield to me that now I don't know, because I think that having that, like, has a story payoff with it protecting him.
Yeah.
And him using it to get back to the castle, get back to Sam, and help people flee Winterfell. I don't know.
Well, I gotta say, this is a great moment for them to kill Ser Jorah. If we want to talk about death predictions a little bit, because him getting the sword is and to the point you just made about the scene where he's like, "No, Tyrion needs to be your hand." I feel like both of these moments have kind of like concluded his story. Like, he has come full circle as this just like loyal, person. Where when he started, that's what he lacked was loyalty and honor. He's gotten that honor back by getting this sword. So now we can just kill him.
You are right, but then, I mean, I don't know. For some reason, I just feel like there's this preciousness to these artifacts, to these swords, and I'm like,
Yeah.
those swords need to kind of
that is
live
a good
on
point.
in the story,
Yeah.
and like it's not so much him as his sword needs to come back, and he could die using the sword, and someone else picks it up and brings it back, and that could be kind of cool. Maybe like Gendry's out there and he picks it up and he's like, motherfucking.
That
like,
would be so
playing around.
funny if the White Walkers are just like, wait a second, Dragonglass and Valyrian Steel works on you too, and just takes everybody's weapons and starts attacking them with all the stuff.
So there's in my notes here right now, I have two things. One says Grey Worm isn't going to make it because he and Missandre had the let's get a boat called Live Forever discussion.
Oh, right.
And then I have another that just says Ghost.
Right. It was awesome because Ghost shows up.
Yeah.
And it's, it just seems like they had a white wolf there in the background,
Yeah.
and they were like, we're not even going to pay for sizing him up, so we're just going to have him a little closer to the camera.
Yeah.
Sure.
I felt like that scene was in there so they could be like, just so you know, we got one last kamikaze we can fire at
Yeah.
him.
But Nymeria should still be around. Arya's.
Oh man, if she shows up out of nowhere, that'd be amazing.
Well, Nymeria has her own wolf pack, which we got to see a couple seasons ago.
And
right.
if she brings her wolf pack because she
Oh,
senses
man.
Arya's in danger,
I had totally forgotten about
Ooh.
that. That's a cool idea.
what a fucking sweet payoff that would be.
That would be pretty
cool.
wild.
I love Sam, Ed, and Jon Snow on the wall. You can see these guys know each other. It's the Night's Watch
Yeah.
reunion, talking shit to each other. That was super fun.
It was really good.
Yeah.
Once I kind of let down my
You're like, oh,
accepted
there's
my
no
disappointment.
fight.
We're not
There's no
getting the
fight.
battle. I
Yeah,
was like,
like at this point of the episode, you've already checked the time. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, it's not going to start today.
it's not happening. Okay, now just kind of embrace these little character
Yeah.
moments and the dynamic that they get. This is a playground for writers to get to, like, how would these characters interact?
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I got it. It was fun.
Yeah.
A couple weird, awkward, quiet beats, especially like up in the room where they're all gathering around the fire, and I'm like, oh, there's like this sort of like elitism thing.
Yeah.
Didn't you feel like, oh, all the upper class people, they all get to kind of hide
All
out
the
in the
knights, yeah,
house
and
and like by the fire?
Yeah.
Well,
whereas like only Sansa is out there in the cold with Theon. I'm like, that's kind of notable to
It's
me.
still the Game of Thrones world. They haven't they haven't overthrown the 1% here.
And also, if you look at everybody in that room,
Yeah.
Well, except Tormund, I guess, but they all know the move. Like they're all up the high society people.
Yeah.
They know.
They know the
Oh,
play. Yeah.
this is the time where people are going to be having their wine. Let's go sneak off to the.
And Tormund knows because Tormund knows you go find the fire. When it's cold, you go find the fire. I mean, that's he's got a different approach to it.
He was just sniffing out Brienne, and she was just following Podrick, who's a PIMP.
Yeah,
and he was like, if we find Tyrion, I'm going to get shit-faced.
I love that this half cup, and he's like, not so much.
Just like drunkenly fills it up.
I love the look between the two of them. I love the relationship between Podrick and just about everybody. And Podrick and Tyrion going way back. Podrick saved Tyrion's life way back when, and I love that they've got that connection.
And Tyrion vouched for him and kind of set him on the path that he is of like gaining respect. I mean, it was a very touching, like mutual relationship, beneficial relationship for them.
Yeah.
And then having Bronn in that circle too, like all of that, to see them separated, that was one of the more sadder parts of the show, I think.
It's funny when you mention Bronn because there's this, there's the speculation of like there's a lot of poetic deaths in this show. Like Ned Stark chops off someone's head, he gets his head chopped off.
Right.
Ileana, or what's her name? The old lady,
Melisandre.
Tyrell.
She gets
She
poisoned.
poisons someone. She gets poisoned. It's like all these kind of like you get what you give.
Yeah.
And so the idea of like Tyrion and this Chekhov's gun, this sort of Damocles thing of like the harpoon that he used to kill his father, or crossbow rather, is going to come back to haunt him with Bronn's hand. But also in the very first season, there's that scene where they're talking, where he first like hires Bronn, and he's like, "I understand you're a sellsword, and I just want you to know that if anyone ever pays you to come kill me, I'll pay you more."
Yep. Yeah.
And I'm like, I hope
That's
that
gonna pay off.
is the
Yeah.
payoff.
Yeah, I agree.
That would be great. I feel like he's cashed that one in a couple times.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He
Yeah.
pays him more.
Yeah.
Do you think is the mountain going to get his head smashed?
Oh.
That would be another
By,
great
like,
one.
if the Hound can do that.
Yeah.
Because, okay, we also get, like, Arya kind of hanging out with the Hound, and, like, they can, like, share a couple sips. She's probably just getting a little bit of liquid
Working up the courage for what she was about to do next.
To go get her Mac on. I'm like, okay, right on.
Yep.
And it was like Hound was like, man, you used to talk more, and her just kind of being quiet, and she's like, man, I could fucking kill you right now. Like it would be nothing to me. I even went downstairs and showed off to Gendry earlier how great I am at just like throwing darts.
knives.
Yeah, we want to play a game of darts. I'm gonna slay.
Well, there was that one moment where he kind of groveled, where she's like, who do you? Since when do you fight for anyone but yourself? And he's like, I fought for you.
Yeah.
And that was when we got his turn too. Is when they separated.
I wish she was kind of like, sort of. You sort of fought for me. You sort of fought so you could keep me as your kidnapped.
Yeah, I do
Hostage.
feel like that story though had a pretty good payoff at the end when he had the battle with Brienne. And,
that was a good payoff.
Because I do feel like he wasn't just fighting for a bounty at that point. Like it had become something more. Like he had kind of seen the danger that these girls were in.
There were a couple things I really liked when they were all around the Great Fire.
Yeah.
One of them was Tyrion's weird optimism that they're all going to survive. Like I loved. He's like, we might make it. Look how many fights we've been through. Look how many. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. I like that.
It was cool, like listing off everyone's merits and how that kind of led to the knighting thing.
And it's going to be really sad when they all die. But the knighting scene, I teared up a little bit. That was a really good scene.
Yeah.
I'm not a robot like you, Grant.
Don't tear up at anything ever in life.
I don't know. I was probably a little closer to Randy than not tearing up because it was touching.
It was really good.
It was very well executed
Yeah.
for what could have been a corny scene.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that they're all hanging around getting drunk makes perfect sense with Jamie being like, you want...
I can knight you.
You want to be a knight? I fucking knight. Give me that goddamn sword. Get over here. I'll fucking knight you. Podrick, you want to be a knight too? Get everyone. Come on. Let's do this. And I was like, that's great.
One of the little tiny details I really liked is that Tormund could easily have been really jealous about that. Because that was Jaime's move. Like, Jaime's like, look, I can knight you. You should go with me. And Tormund instead is like super like happy for Brienne when she gets knighted.
I don't get the sense, though, that like Jaime recognizes that he has any sort of like love, that kind of love, affection for her.
He doesn't, but Tormund sees it.
I think that she's digging Jamie a little bit, but she's a little bit unsure as well.
Yeah.
Tormund just straight up knows. He's like, I want to get with that big lady.
I can smell both of them.
But Tormund also comes from a society where there's no laying claim or ownership.
Right, that's true.
And so I don't think he's necessarily.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think he necessarily feels inclined to be jealously competitive.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think a jolly good attempt is fine by him.
Yeah. I mean, he also maybe he comes from a society where he's like, well, I'll just kill Jamie in battle and then I don't have a competition anymore.
Yeah. That guy's got one hand. How
hard could it be?
pretty hard now.
I don't know why it would have happened, but it would have been pretty entertaining to have Varys in that great fire scene too.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised that he wasn't there.
Yeah,
Varys got kind of cut out of things. It's too bad.
I don't know. Him and Tyrion have had a lot of great scenes that are just like them sitting somewhere drinking wine.
The great chorus, do you believe this shit? That's what Varys and Tyrion do. They're like, do you believe this shit?
Varys is a little bit more of like, he's settled into just being like a bitchy old man. Like, oh, these kids these days, meh.
He should have been up on the wall with Dondarrion and the Hound.
Yeah, just like everyone just being all like, everything is just so jaded about everything.
Or we should have just got a scene of him like walking out and going, ooh, cold, and just walking right back in.
If I had balls, they'd be shriveled up right now. I guess we didn't talk about the singing.
Yeah. Podrick singing. That was great.
His voice was great.
Yeah.
The song was sad, like all their songs back then.
I guess some of it is from the books, but they added some verses and stuff. They talked about this at the after credits thing.
The episode was called Jenny's Song.
Yeah.
I think so.
Isn't that a cowboy mouth
They
song?
haven't named anything, so yes.
Yeah. I think it was. I think I got that from an article. I know that the song in there was called Jenny's Song. That song he sings. And yeah, I was talking about this earlier, but no, I think this was paying off the scene with him and the prostitutes, and that his hidden ability with the ladies, I think, is his voice, is his singing.
I like this theory.
Yeah.
Or at least his mouth.
It's just oral related,
whether it's songs or whatever.
So speaking of sexy things,
oral,
yes.
We kind of glossed over one thing real quick. If I can jump back, we talked about Ser Jorah talking to little Lyanna Mormont, and I think it was just still such a powerful moment to see her as this little kid just having more of a sense of her role of leadership than so many of these other people we've seen come and go in this show.
Yeah, she's one of the most noble characters in the show.
Noble and just like knows her shit, and like she commands respect and has earned it. Yeah. It's just
I hope she doesn't die. I'd like her to grow a little older. And
no. Everyone's gonna die.
Everyone's gonna die.
Little bear.
Speaking of that, I also love, and I don't know how much this is, part of the thought when you're writing these characters in a book, but the design of these characters, seeing everybody around the table in the battle planning scene, from Jaime with the gold hand, the little bear where you got this kid, Daenerys and Sansa in their awesome costumes, a wildling in his whole gear.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine seeing this as a graphic novel? Like, it's kind of what I loved about The Walking Dead in the beginning, is that each character had just such a unique design. Like, you just instantly are like, what is the story here? Looking at all these people in the same place.
It's so D&D.
Well, yeah, it's exactly. That's what good fantasy does. It gives, because Arya's the rogue, and rogue assassin. I mean, like, you can pin them all down. Tormund's the barbarian. Brienne is, the fighter. Like
Bedrick. I don't remember.
Dondarrion's like the paladin.
Yeah. Like a resurrected paladin.
Yeah. There's a lot of you can map some D&D, but I think you're right. Every character stands out. It's kind of like the Fellowship. They're like, you got the dwarf, you got the elf, you got the ranger, you've got the two hobbits. Like, it's all you can quickly identify the characters.
And they do a great job in an era of male dominated, dynamic patriarchy, whatever.
Yeah.
To show these powerful women and to have the face off between the two like leading people in the village or in Winterfell right now, being Daenerys and Sansa, to having Lyanna Mormont like showing what a true leader does, to having the knighting of Brianna, Brienne, and like I'm like, okay, like how they keep like raising them up in a way and like putting the spotlight on them. It feels important.
Yeah.
In this world where they keep saying like that respect isn't properly given enough.
Right.
And I like that.
Yeah. Are we ready to get busy, guys?
Like Arya and Gendry?
Yeah, because we're kind of that point where it's time
Yeah.
to dim the lights. Were any of you watching this going, man, it's going to suck to have to get up at 3 a.m. and fight White Walkers? Like, this would just be a great. It's been a long day. I could just really use a good night's sleep after all this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And it's like, nope. Man, they sure got a lot of use out of that crypt this episode as a set.
Yeah.
Oh, is that where they were? I didn't know where he's working with a forge and stuff. Is that down the crypt?
I might be. I'm not sure.
Oh, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like it, and then afterwards I was like, wait, were they having sex in the crypt? Well, John and Danny are like, we got to talk.
Like 2 feet away.
It seemed like a sweet spot with like a nice little bed, and it's a little isolated from like all these people there.
Yeah.
Arya's also kind of punk rock. I could see her like, this is my dad's grave. Let's do it.
I thought that I like the idea of Arya kind of taking charge of this kind of thing and being the person in the dynamic that is in power and like saying we're gonna have sex, Gendry. I can feel this between us.
Yeah.
And let's do it. I thought that some of the dialogue dancing around it was a little bit awkward. And
I mean, that
maybe
makes
that's
sense.
intentional.
Neither of them is great at this. I also think the thing I liked about this is there's been a little flirty from the previous episode and this episode. And I was watching and I'm like, I don't want Arya and Gendry to be boyfriend, girlfriend. I like they didn't go that direction. It's not like they're like flirty, falling in love. It's like, no, she's like, you know what? I'm going to do this.
She just
You
wanted a
seem
booty
fine.
call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I liked that a lot better.
It also, if you take gender out of her character, like that's what a faceless man would do. Like that's like the lifestyle of this espionage character.
Yeah.
But the whole like how many sexual partners have you had? No, tell me how many? What's it? Come on,
That's
tell me.
a little girl.
Yeah, that's, she's still in there somewhere.
She's still Arya Stark.
Yeah, I'm like, what do? There's a certain aspect of this story wise where she has fallen into this like cold-blooded assassin.
Mm-hmm.
She's now an executor of a merchant of death. So she's operating with death, right?
Yeah.
And this is a little bit of her kind of regaining a sense of herself and doing something a little bit more human and not being this murder bot. And I appreciate her kind of finding herself again and taking, but still being like a powerful, empowered person who goes and like says, "This is what I want, and let's get this."
Yeah.
Were either of you like, please don't show her naked. Please don't do this.
I
know she's legal. Please don't
She's
do it.
22 years old, but I'm like, this is I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
It is weird to me, and I think maybe it's because I don't know, we have kids or something.
Yeah.
Something about it. The word I initially used, and maybe this is a little bit inappropriate, but it felt like grooming in a way.
Yeah.
And I don't like that word, but it seems weird that these guys cast her at 11 years old.
Yeah.
They've grown up with her.
Yeah.
It's in a way they're like surrogate parents, like watching over her all the time. And then to write this scene, and I don't know.
How to take yourself out of it? Yeah.
It's part of like I couldn't divorce this scene from thinking about Benioff and Weiss as the surrogate parents.
Yeah.
Giving this scene their blessing or writing it specifically and being like, but that's like your kid. Don't put her in a sex scene and have her naked. Like, I don't know. It's weird
it'd be
from that perspective.
It'd be so funny if, the conversations we've heard of with George R.L. Martin about the final book, if he was like, people said I was kind of weird when I put all that incest stuff in there, but it's like, in order to finish this, guys, you're going to have to get her naked. That's what you got to do.
I mean, I read some Entertainment Weekly article after the fact where like she like agreed to this and like said everything that she was comfortable with doing. So this was shot with what she wanted to have done in the scene.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I kind of felt the same way with Sabrina, too, because that actress who we saw on Mad Men playing the same age as Arya when she started on this show.
Yeah.
You're so used to seeing an actor portray a role, you get it in your head, and especially the writers, like you were saying, like how can they see her as that character and not as the person who started as a little girl?
But she's 22 years old. She's playing an 18-year-old in this in a world where a lot of women do not get the opportunity to make a this kind of choice
To choose
on
their own first time, yeah.
choose their own first time, choose someone who's not 80 years old, you know, choose a young stud who's working as a blacksmith and who has no eyebrows, you know, and so she kudos for those aspects.
That is like the equivalent of riding a motorcycle in Winterfell is like being a blacksmith.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm dating a guy. He's a blacksmith.
Yeah. Well, that's how he's probably burned a lot of his eyebrows off.
That's got to be what's going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, mixed feelings on that.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was very tastefully done. I'm glad that she didn't go full nude, and I thought it was tasteful. And there's sometimes I see they had one in the first episode.
We
with
should have
Bronn.
had Gendry naked. That's what should have happened,
or at least a little ass like Jon Snow. But whenever I see naked women in the show, I'm always like, oh, that's nice. They gave a job to a porn star where she doesn't have to have sex. We're helping revive the industry.
It's funny. I was reading also that article, and the actor who plays Gendry was talking about it, and he was like, "Yeah, for me, it was a little bit. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's." We're actors working together.
Yeah.
But also, like, I started the show as an adult and she was 11.
Yeah.
And now, like, 10 years later, 11 years later, she's 22. And, like, I don't want to say, like, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm like, I don't want to say, like, any disrespect to the working relationship, but there is something in the back of my mind about how, like, there's this something a little bit like weird about that. So I just kind of like said, okay, we're gonna have fun. We're gonna just do this scene, and I think we did a great job. Is what he said.
Yeah.
So he concluded it nice, but I think he was also kind of saying to the audience, look, it's a little weird for me too. It's a little weird.
Well, and
and this person has a kid.
Now I'm thinking about it. She asked him, "Did you have sex with any?" Oh, I guess he did go back to King's Landing, but I don't know. Kind of her roast, like Gendry, the character, he'd have a little bit of that going on too. You know, he would have been a pinch older than her when they started, and probably done some things with women at that point.
I was talking to my wife about this, and she still thinks, to some extent, that Arya's motivations weren't necessarily pure in this, which I thought was interesting because she still like was making the case like Arya still always has a bigger end game, I guess, in this. So she was thinking, what if she's hooking up with Gendry as a means of some House of Black and White trick, being able to take his face in battle or something like that? I don't know. Like maybe that level of intimacy would allow her to get close enough to copy his face if she needed to go in disguise to do something or whatever. Like, but also, she gets some booty, whatever.
Were you guys disappointed her weapon wasn't super cool?
They didn't show what it does.
Oh, okay.
I noticed that. I thought the coolest thing about it was that they purposely didn't give us too much of her using it, and I think that hopefully is going to be a good payoff.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you mentioned weapons because I think that the loaded gun sitting on the table is the dagger, the Valyrian steel dagger.
Yeah.
And I know she used it to kill Littlefinger, which kind of seems like, oh, that's the end of the story for that weapon.
No, I think you're right. That's going to be important.
They just always make such a point to call it a Valyrian steel dagger.
Yeah.
I do think that it's going to be one of those Mexican standoff things where that's going to be the weapon that it comes down to.
I agree. I think you're right.
Yeah.
So last thing is the big I'm sorry. In the notes it says tale from the crypt.
Oh no, that was Arya getting tail in the crypt.
Oh god, that's even worse. I thought it was Jon Snow telling his tale in the crypt.
How great!
But then we get the Jon Snow scene.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this is why I'm like, once again. There's my little kid talking. Jon Snow is an idiot.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
Why right on the precipice
on the eve of the battle? I know.
Bring this up to someone who's going through some other stuff and tenuously trying to hold on to her grip in a situation that's kind of crazy, and apparently you guys have a romantic relationship. Don't do this, dude.
And might decide to, just like have a little friendly fire and take out her competition.
Don't.
Yeah, just really.
It was not the time and place, and you know nothing. Jon Snow still holds true because this guy is such an idiot and should not be in charge of the Seven Kingdoms.
He's his father's son.
If he dies and becomes the new Night King, I'm okay with that. But if he wins and takes over the throne, no, the guy's an idiot.
You know what I wanted? I was kind of waiting for this line. It never came. The only reason I could see him actually telling her at this point, I wanted him to say, "Look, I know this whole thing. I'm the true heir. I don't want it. I'm telling you because some people know. We should never tell anybody. I want to be Jon Snow. I don't want to be Aemon Targaryen." That's what I wanted.
That would have been great.
I wanted him to actually say, I don't want this. I'm telling you because I know, and I don't want it getting back to you from somebody else.
And it would resonate with the whole thing of him leaving to go stand on the wall.
Yeah.
He was rejecting any possibility of there being conflict between him and Robb Stark.
Yeah.
Because of that relation, that family tie. He's like, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into conscripted service.
Stannis offers it to him. He goes, I'll make you Warden of the North right now. Your brother's dead. Come with me.
Like, he's constantly rejected this. So now Sam saying that, that should have been what he said. And that would have... They just want it both ways. They want the drama.
Yeah.
And I think it makes me lose respect for the character.
I agree. I really wanted him to say, look, I don't want this.
I'm going to defend him a little bit, all right? Because you guys are coming down hard.
Uh-huh.
When I saw that scene, I'm just like you guys. I kept thinking of, why didn't you say this? Why didn't you say that?
Yeah.
But then I thought to all the other scenes where they show him in the room not saying anything, and I'm like, that's what he was thinking about. What if I say this, And then he was like, I can't say that. What if I... And then when he comes down to it, he just said, here are the facts. I know it's true. Because to say anything else would come off as like scheming or I've been thinking about a way to skirt.
That's fair.
He does just outline like what is.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. We ding this show for just doing things to move the plot forward. This was completely intentional to have this pivotal moment happen right before the big battle.
Yeah.
So they're torn. So this was exactly executed to move the plot forward.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
right.
in that sense, it can't really rise above that, even though it did put us in, kind of this crazy situation to lead into next week.
Yeah.
I have at the bottom of the list, the horns sound and the White Walkers approach.
Yeah.
The Bee Gees approach. That what it looked like in the big, long white hair.
Yeah.
I mean, finally, I guess we're going to get the battle, and we should discuss who's going to live and who's going to die.
So,
and I kind of want to throw this in, but I want to wait till the very end because this sounded so good. I'm like, oh, this is like when somebody guesses it. But I do have a theory about the rest of the season.
Okay.
After we go through our death predictions.
Okay. All right.
Wait. Oh, let's do the death predictions first.
Okay,
Everybody's going to die.
I'm giving like lots of warnings because when I heard this, I was like, damn, did somebody just spoil this for me? Death predictions.
First person up, I guess Daenerys.
Daenerys is going to live.
Daenerys lives.
I don't actually think everybody's going to die.
She dies because she had sex. That's my vote.
She dies. That's kind of crazy, man.
I don't think Daenerys is going to die.
That would be pretty crazy.
I think Daenerys is going to fly away on a dragon.
Yeah, I definitely am in the camp of I think she's going to live as well.
My big question, and I don't want to know too much, but how do they get away? Like, how do you get away from an army of White Walkers?
Well, she can ride away on a dragon.
She can ride away on a dragon. How does anybody else escape?
They don't. They're slow. They're White Walkers.
Yeah, that's true.
Like everyone else can get on a horse or run. They do run. I guess
they have
horses. They're kind of like Evil Dead.
There's also something really important to note is to the best of my knowledge, in all the other confrontations with the White Walkers, they haven't been armed properly.
Yeah.
So this is the first time where we're going to see these guys blowing up left and right into dust when they're hit with dragon glass axes and Valyrium steel swords.
That's true.
And the White Walkers are probably going to be like, hold up, we need to reassess our strategy. We got to bounce out of here.
Uh-huh.
No good.
But back to your point about Daenerys not dying. One thing that the show continually does is it defies expectations.
Yeah.
And I can't think of any bigger expectation this show has put on us since season 1 than Daenerys is going to be on top at the end.
Yeah.
That
if she dies, it's a big shock.
Yeah. Which I hope they don't do it for shock value, but I mean, it tracks.
Jon Snow.
I think Jon Snow survives.
I think there's a good chance he could die just because I think now he's pit himself as competition to her.
Yeah.
And so I think his percentage of possibility goes up. Tyrion
lives.
Tyrion lives.
Ooh, I don't know. He's on my death list.
I think Tyrion makes it to the end.
Tyrion's on your death list for this next episode?
Oh no, not for the season. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we're talking about next episode.
We're talking about next episode.
Next
after the
episode.
battle.
Yeah.
Tyrion lives.
Okay, let's go ahead and say Jaime.
I think Jaime might die.
I think Jaime dies.
Dies in the arms of a woman he loves.
I think he will die in the arms of a woman, but I think he's going to skate through this one.
I think he dies, and then it's only Tyrion who's at risk from Bronn.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I still think there needs to be the reveal that he's the third dragon.
Do you think Tormund's going to die?
I really do love that theory.
Tormund? No. I think he's too lovable.
Do you think Brienne's going to die?
No.
Really? I think it's possible.
I think that she could only if Jamie dies first.
Yeah.
If he dies
for sure.
and then she kind of goes like wilding out, and then like dies in like a throes of passion kind of thing.
I think
like
so. I
fighting
think that's
these
possible.
guys. Podrick.
I think Podrick lives.
Yeah, I definitely hope Podrick lives.
Podrick's got to live to have many more tales about him.
Yeah.
The Onion Knight.
I don't think he's gonna be in the battle.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna. He's gonna be on a rowboat, like, peace, guys. This is what I do. Not dealing with this. Who else?
Grey Worm's definitely gonna die.
Grey Worm's got.
Oh yeah.
But he's gonna die like a hoss.
I don't think Arya's gonna die, but I'm not ruling it out.
Who?
Arya.
I think Arya is going to impersonate someone. We're gonna think she dies. It's gonna be.
I think you may be right. A fake out death. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
That'd be great.
But I think Arya's got many other tricks up her sleeve, and there's still Nymeria potentially showing up to save her.
Do you
skin.
think Ghost is gonna die?
Ooh, Ghost. This would be a good point for Ghost to die.
Yeah.
yeah. Davos.
Onion Knight.
Davos was
Yeah.
Onion
Onion
Knight.
Knight's right.
Yeah. The Beric Dondarrion.
Who cares?
I think he could die.
The Hound.
Yeah.
Hound has to live to fight the mountain unless he becomes White Walker and fights the mountain that way.
Yeah, I think. There's that theory because that sounds like a Song of Ice and Fire, like a White Walker. And there's a theory about like Arya, or the fan shipping theory, I guess, of Arya being the ice of the relationship and Gendry being the fire.
It's weird.
Yeah, I think that they're taking two minor characters and trying to do that.
Here's the thing. I am sure we're wrong about at least one of these things. I am sure there's going to be a surprising death, and I'm sure there's going to be somebody survive. We're like, I thought that dude
Theon should die in protection of Bran.
Yeah.
That'd be a
But
good one,
Bran can't die.
Yeah.
Because he's the last
three-eyed
keeper
raven.
of.
Yep.
Unless somehow Bran passes that on to Sam.
Yeah.
Sam, I don't think will die.
I don't think so either, unless they kill everybody in the crypt.
I also think that if Sam becomes the three-eyed raven, then that'd be good as that character dying, because he would no longer have the same relationship with Gilly and their son that he does now.
What if everybody dies and the last 3 episodes are just Cersei and the people in the South?
Dude, can you imagine?
Oh,
It's like, this is all that's left of the living. Them and the Iron Islands. That's all that's left of the living.
Like how? Like fans would be mad.
Would they?
Yeah, and
Or
you
would
have
they be
3
happy because everybody's been talking about how they went soft after they ran out of books, and if they went hardcore and just killed everybody,
You're talking about like Daenerys, all the
Everybody.
dragons, everyone's
Everybody.
gone.
Yeah.
And there's just this inevitable force coming for another 3 episodes.
Yeah.
That'd be bonkers.
yeah, it would be bonkers. Here's the question. Are you going to be disappointed? I know some people will be. Will you guys be disappointed if basically nobody dies, if nobody of consequence dies?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it will be a reflection of their continued divergence from the show.
Yeah.
This show being special because people are expendable.
I kind of agree, and I don't see that happening, but I do think it's a slight possibility that we might basically nobody of consequence dies.
I am
One person,
positive
like-
they've mapped this out time and time again.
Yeah.
Different possibilities of who should we get rid of.
Yeah.
So that this has consequence and it has weight.
Right.
And at least one big person needs to die.
Yeah,
And I think it's going to be Jamie.
I think Jamie's it too.
I think Jamie would be a big enough of a character
Yeah.
to have die and have Brienne die potentially.
Yeah.
And all of that would be pretty powerful.
Man, I can't wait to see how this all plays out. I'm super excited for next week.
You got a theory for us.
Oh yeah, and if you don't want to like accidentally have future episodes spoiled, this would be a good time to cut off, because when I heard this, I was like, "Damn, that is something they would do." All right,
All right, lay it on us.
3, 2, 1, go. We get the battle next week. All right, whether they kick a bunch of ass, whether they get their ass kicked, we're going to get to the end of this battle, and Tormund or somebody is going to go, "Wait, this is only 10% of their army. Where's the rest of the army?" Or, "Wait, the Night King isn't here.
Where's the dragon?
Where's the dragon?"
Yeah.
And we're going to find out that the Night King took most of the army down to King's Landing and has already taken it and is going to attack them from the south.
Oh,
I think that's possible. I think it's very likely the Night King and the dragon will not be in the battle next week.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what I was saying, where like the end of this episode's going to be, the next episode's going to be, it's snowing heavily in King's Landing.
What if episode 3 is the big battle of the north and episode 4 is the battle of the south, and then episode 5 is the survivors against the last stand kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then 6
X-Men
is
Last Stand.
6 is the prologue. X-Men Last Stand.
Yeah. I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
That's what the mountain's only line is going to be.
So good. All right. I guess that's it, guys. That is a wrap. We've talked about this episode. And
comprehensive.
We're probably going to have to come back next week if we can coordinate
if we can find a way to do it.
It might need to be on Tuesday or something instead of Monday. I don't know, because I think you're busy, Randy.
Yeah, it's tough.
Or we do Sunday night, late night.
Yeah.
Possible.
Let's figure something out.
Yeah.
But yeah, we love talking about this, and this is it's the end. So
It's the end.
we gotta do it. Folks, please let us know what you guys are thinking about this episode. We'd love to talk with you about it. Once again, you can always hit us up on our website and make comments. You can hit us up on Facebook or on Twitter. And we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/TV Dudes. Go ahead and kick us a buck or two there if you want exclusive bonus content. We do that occasionally. And we appreciate all the support of you guys. Kyle, Randy, thank you guys so much.
Grant, thank you.
Listeners, thank you. My daughter, thank you for the most part being quiet. And we will be back next week. Once again, a reminder, we're not going to be posting an episode on Friday. This is the episode for the week. You guys are great, and we'll be back. Until then,
TV Dudes out.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TV Dudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter @TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.